Hey guys, Cameron from Preparing Dreadful, Season 3, Episode 2, Predators Far and Near, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I love last week's premiere, as you guys know. It really surprised me. I was not expecting much from it, but it really opened up, I think, more for the show to do, like I said, because we're in these different not time periods, but in these different, states, and we're in different kinds of worlds. There's more to do with the show. I definitely love seeing that, and it really brought the show to a whole new possibilities, and this episode pretty much did the same exact thing. This kind of was part 2 of the premiere. I don't think this episode was as strong as last week's. There were some things we didn't see as much in this week's. It was pretty much a setup episode, but I still really did enjoy it. I thought there were some great scenes here. I definitely really did enjoy what we got here, and I am worried about one thing, which I will talk about at the end of this review. Hopefully, it's not as much of an issue as I think it's going to be, but right now, I'm kind of worried, but let's just get into it. So, we start off with the two characters who we did not see last week. We saw pretty much everyone last week, as we know, but the two characters that we purposely did not see because the show, for whatever reason, seems to not want to show these two characters till the second episode of each season, and that, of course, is Dorian and Lily. They're taking a carriage to London's red light district, and first of all, I love seeing these two together. I love seeing them work together. I mean, you can already tell the sort of, maniacal, just kind of evil, not evil, but just sadistic kind of relationship that they have. It's very interesting. They go to an underground arena, and the proprietor confirms that Dorian's aware of the illegality of what they're doing because it's completely illegal, and including butchering, and Dorian says that's what he's paying for. They enter a chamber, sit in a circle with several in tuxedos, and they see this naked girl, Justine, is brought in, who Justine's definitely going to become a big part of this season, and a hood executioner grabs her by the throat. Justine spits in his face. The executioner slaps her, then prepares to beat her to death. Lily and Dorian stand up, draw a knife and gun respectively. They kill all the men watching because obviously, how could anyone watch this? I mean, they know this girl's about to get executed. They know she's about to get murdered. They know what's going to happen to her, and they just don't want that to happen to someone like that. You know, she's a completely innocent girl, and they kill the last man together. Lily tells Justine that she is hers, and I like this scene because you do see that they are still heroes. You know, Dorian and Lily primarily have been our villains, but really last season took them in a new direction. We know that Lily really sees herself as very empowered and things like that, and I really love seeing that. I thought that was a really great scene, and I like seeing Dorian and Lily recruiting this girl, doing something for a good reason. They're doing this, for a good cause, obviously. This is a really bad situation, what's going on. The fact there's all this fighting going on, I mean, there's really nothing they can do about it, and I like seeing that. So, really good stuff there, and a really good way to start the episode. In the small town in the U.S. West, a man takes photographs of 7 corpses shot in a gunfight, and Marshal Frank Ostow stops him and says to bury them, and at the local sheriff's office, Rusk wonders where the men who took Ethan would go, and the sheriff says he's more concerned about the train full of dead bodies, because as we know, pretty much all of the marshals were killed, and Ostow's the only one that remains. Ostow comes in, asks where Ethan is. Rusk tells him what happened, and Ostow tells him to go home now that his duty is fulfilled. Rusk insists that his duty is done when he sees Ethan Hunn, and tells Ostow to take it up with the British ambassador if he has a jurisdiction issue, and the inspector says that he's an experienced soldier and knows where Ethan is going, and he knows, Ethan's not going to, he's not going to get ahead of him. He knows exactly Ethan's every move. The town of Cascabel, the closest place to the Talbot Range, that definitely is where he's headed, and as Ostow agrees to ride with the Rusk, Hecate sits outside the window and listens. Satisfied, she walks away. And we do see more of the reason why Hecate really is there. To me, it seems like she's just drawn to Ethan. Like, she wants to be with Ethan. She feels like this is her destiny, and it's kind of like how she was with Evelyn. She really has decided to be with Ethan, and we don't exactly know why, but I feel there is more to it. Definitely, I like seeing that Hecate is on the show. She's a very good actress, and her and Ethan, as we know, had really interesting bond last season. I'm glad that we're continuing that here, because I did think it was going to be something that we weren't going to show, but I'm glad we are seeing it. I definitely really did love that. And then we get the best scene in this episode. By far the best scene in this episode were the therapy scenes, and I'm not surprised. You guys know I usually love therapy scenes, and I love what they're doing with Vanessa's character this season. The fact that we're getting all this catharsis, and the fact that we're getting all this stuff that Vanessa has done, and she basically has to deal with all of the trauma and basically wrong things she's done in her life. She finally has to come out and say it. It's a very, very well done, and I really love the way they handled it here. And Eva Green, as usual, is just killing it. She did incredible in this episode, as usual. We see in London, Vanessa returns to Seward's office, and Renfield's at the desk writing and greets her as she comes in. Now, Renfield is kind of a shady character at this point, because before, Renfield was just, Seward's secretary. There really wasn't much else to him, but now we know that Renfield is working for Dracula, and we know that he's trying to get information on Vanessa. So everything that Renfield says kind of has a double meaning here, and He asks her to fill out some paperwork when she's done, makes conversation about Tennyson's recent death before going back to work, and Seward's patient leaves, and Renfield escorts Vanessa into the doctor's office, and Seward notices that Vanessa is wearing gloves to conceal the itch in her hands, and Vanessa says that she purposely is not doing it, but Seward says, she's not doing it to irritate her, and she sets up a device to record their sessions, and we basically get their actual first session in this episode, which we kind of got that last week, but it was more of a preview of what we were going to get, and here we actually do get to see what these sessions are going to be like. Vanessa admits that she's uncomfortable with the permanent record of her deeds, including sin and foolishness. She's just not okay with this stuff being on record, but they have to deal with this. This is something that Vanessa clearly doesn't want to have to deal with, and they need to deal with it. And in fact, if she wants to move forward, they need to deal with this stuff. And Seward asks her to describe the first time that she sinned. Vanessa goes all the way back to when she betrayed Mina on the eve of her wedding by seducing her fiance. If you remember that incredible episode in season 1 where we found out that she betrayed Mina by seducing her fiance. The doctor refuses, tells her to say everything. Vanessa warns that it involves murder and beyond, warns that if Seward hears the story, then she will never sleep comfortably again. And Seward repeats her request. She doesn't care. I mean, she's a therapist. She's been through a lot. She's heard a lot of shit, clearly. And really, nothing Vanessa's going to say is really going to phase Seward at all, you can tell. I mean, I think Seward obviously is going to be a bit emotional by what she hears, but she definitely has heard stories like this. And I don't really think she's surprised when she hears Vanessa's story. So basically, Vanessa tells her everything. We then see at a tea room, Victor and Jekyll meet. Jekyll talks about what he will inherit once his father dies, and we get a bit more characterization with Jekyll in this episode, which I did like seeing. I thought what they did with him last week, with us seeing Jekyll kind of being hated for him being Native American and things like that, was a very interesting scene. I like seeing that. And like I said, it really does add to the character, and it doesn't really seem like we're talking about Jekyll and Hyde. It doesn't really seem like we're going in that direction with Jekyll. To me, it seems more like I said, Jekyll's monster is the fact that he is native, that he's a Native American, and back then, they were not very much liked back then, and he talks about when he will once inherit once his father dies, and the issue of Jekyll's mixed heritage comes up. He says his mother was rejected by his own family, untouchable, and died of leprosy, and he waits for his father to die for the justice, and says that all people are two things, good and evil, light and dark. And really, that's true. I mean, everyone has good and evil qualities within them. No one is completely evil, no one's completely good. We'll give you the perfect example. Evelyn, for example. I mean, Evelyn really was bad for the most part. Let's talk about it, season 2 villain Evelyn, obviously, she was obviously a bad person, but she was doing it for a good reason. She wanted to do it because she just felt that this was her destiny, and to her, she thought she was doing a good thing. And everyone that's doing something bad, they think they're doing something good, and everyone really has those good and evil qualities within them, such as, Victor himself. On one hand, Victor did this because he wanted to preserve life, and basically to be able to create life, was a joy to him, but also by creating Lily, he limited her to who he really was. He completely lied to her. He pretty much reanimated her, had him all to himself, when really she wasn't his to begin with. She was Ethan's, and really, there are a lot of pros and cons with Lily, and he then says that he will help with Victor's addiction however he can, and points out nearby Bedlam where he works, and we knew that they were headed there because, of course, Jekyll said that, and we get to see Jekyll's asylum, which is a lot crazier than what we've seen in Victor's. I mean, if we thought Victor's was crazy, nothing prepares us really for what we see here. We see Jekyll explains he's a resident somnambulist, and he sedates the most violent patients until the Crown decides what to do with them, and in return, he gets a lab and diverting subjects, and Victor realizes that he'll have to bring Lily there when they're ready, because obviously the plan is to make Lily how she used to be, make her be what Victor wants her to be, and worries about what he will have to do with her, because he doesn't really know how this is going to go. I mean, we're talking an asylum here, things like lobotomy, things like, things like intensive, intensive care. I mean, he really doesn't want to know if he wants to do all this stuff with Lily, and you see in the scene that he really does care about her. I mean, even though Victor's saying, I'm not in love with her, you can tell in the scene that definitely he is in love with her, and he really does care about her. Whether it's love or just he cares about her, basically, he worries what he'll have to do with her. He sits in the chair, wonders if Jekyll's process will work. Jekyll assures him that they can make her dormant, and however, Jekyll isn't so sure that he can make Lily love Victor. He just doesn't know if that's possible, because Lily is so far gone that it might not be possible to bring her to love Victor. Maybe they can make her how Victor wants her to be, but she might be incapable of loving him. And Victor stands up, says that he wants Lily as she was, but first he wants to see what Jekyll can do, and basically get an example of how Jekyll can really handle this, which we'll get into that a little bit later. And one of the coolest scenes in this episode, we'll get into that. But we see a crying Vanessa then finish describing what has happened to her, and it's kind of a relief. She wonders, you can see that this really, she's over it, and she's finally told someone. She wonders what she is since God has abandoned her, and we know that really is Vanessa's problem. The fact that she has abandoned her faith, that's something that she's had to accept, and that's something that really has changed her as a person completely, and she's never really had to deal with that before. And Seward lights a cigarette, and Renfield comes in to announce her next appointment, and once he leaves, Seward tells Vanessa that they will find their way through what has happened, and for that day, she wants Vanessa to do something that will make her happy, even for a moment, because Vanessa doesn't really seem happy, and there isn't really anything she's doing that will make her happy. And Vanessa goes out on the street, she smiles and walks away, kind of feeling confident. She's feeling like she's confident, she's feeling like maybe that she got this off her chest, that she can move forward, and I do like seeing that, like seeing Vanessa have this confidence within her, and the boy familiar follows after. Of course, we know that the boy's working for Dracula, so he's bad news, but definitely very interesting, and I really like the way that scene was done, so really good stuff there, and again, Eva Green just killed it, as usual. So en route to America by ship, Malcolm sends a wire to Vanessa that he's going to do some hunting and asks if she is well, and I like the way these two are going back and forth with letters. Even though we're not actually seeing Malcolm and Vanessa on screen, they still are just as close, they're still saying letters back and forth, so we still do have that bond in the show, and of course, eventually, they are going to come back together, so we do see that here. Kaetenay is with him, and Malcolm talks of the animals he has hunted, and the Indian warns that a man is easy prey, and I'm really loving Kaetenay's character, I have to say. He really is bringing this sort of, like, mystical element to the show that we haven't really seen before. I like seeing that, sort of this more like mysterious element that we haven't seen. I definitely do like that. And Ethan's appetite will lead him to the night. Kaetenay explains that Ethan came to him with the blood of people on his face and wanted Kaetenay to kill him. He thought it was crueler to let Ethan live, and Malcolm said that he understands from what had happened with his wife, and I thought that he was talking about Evelyn, but clearly he's talking about what happened with his wife Gladys, because obviously what happened with Gladys, her letting her live wasn't the best thing to do. Obviously we know that she died because he made her commit suicide. And Kaetenay lights a pipe, says that she shall speak to their son, performs a ritual over the stones he has laid out, and basically, it's a very interesting scene. The way he keeps referring to Ethan as their son, I find very interesting. In the desert, Ethan is sleeping, and in his dream, he's standing on a mesa alone. Kaetenay appears, and Ethan tackles him. Now, you don't know if Ethan is actually physically seeing him, or if this is actually just a sequence, and that Kaetenay is pretending it's Ethan. Couldn't really tell here. But he puts a knife to his throat. He warns Kaetenay that if he comes near him in life, he will kill him. Kaetenay tells Ethan he is an Apache, or he is nothing, and Ethan lets him up, and he says that he's outside of Cascabel, and they're taking him to see his father. Ethan says that then he'll end it with him, just as he'll end it eventually with Kaetenay. He really wants nothing to do with Kaetenay. He doesn't want anything to do with the Apaches either. And he advises him to keep an ocean between them. Kaetenay says that he'll see him soon, and Ethan warns that he's not the man Kaetenay knew because there is blood on his teeth and on his soul. He's not this, perfect man anymore. He now is very flawed. He kills, and he still doesn't really know how to control it. Satisfied, Kaetenay says that Ethan is the Apache that he needs, and even more so, he needs him as the Apache. So we still don't really know what the Apache is, but it just makes me more interested. So with that, Ethan wakes up, and on the ship, Kaetenay tells Malcolm that Ethan knows that they are coming, and he knows that definitely they are on their way. So really interesting stuff. I like the way this is setting up where we're going with Kaetenay, Malcolm, and Ethan. Already these threads are connecting together, and I love that. So Vanessa goes to the museum, looks at the stuffed animals, and Sweet is presenting a lecture, and Vanessa joins the audience, which we'll get into Sweet, because Sweet's a very significant part of this episode, obviously. Like I said, he seemed very shady, and just the fact that he didn't remember her name, again, that should be indication that he definitely is shady. He notices her, starts talking about scorpions. Vanessa repeats what he told her on her last visit, and afterwards, Sweet tells Vanessa that his lectures help pay for the expeditions they all sponsor over the world. And you can tell these two are getting really close. It really seems like these two are forming a genuine bond. Probably the most healthy bond Vanessa's had since, Ethan and Malcolm and Victor left her. She hasn't really had a significant bond, and she really does. Seward is obviously her therapist, so that doesn't really count. Sweet really is an actual friend to her, and he admits that he doesn't go on them himself. Vanessa says that her hero is Joan of Arc, and admires her belief in God, and of course Joan, we know, was the woman that she trained with, and they talk of Captain Nemo, and Sweet figures that he's still alive. He thanks Vanessa for coming and bids her good day. She returns to Malcolm's townhouse, reads a newspaper, and smiles in an article, and it's a really good scene. I definitely really did like seeing that scene between those two, and she's happy to see what's going on there. So We then see, so we can tell that really Vanessa is doing something that's happy with herself. She is feeling content, and I like seeing that. So Justine wakes up in an expensive bed, and she looks at the nightgown that she's dressed in, and obviously she doesn't know what's really going on. I mean, it's a really creepy sequence, the way this was done. I mean, you see, technically Dorian and Lily aren't doing anything wrong. They want to give this girl a good life, but in her mind, it's not like that. She hears music, goes to investigate. She finds Dorian and Lily dancing in the main room in an incredibly creepy scene, very well acted by Billy Piper and Reeve Carney, and they see Justine and stop. Lily stares at the girl. She then welcomes Justine to her new home, and Justine asks why they killed the man, and Lily says that she once stood where Justine is, and was also a feral animal raised in the streets. And of course, we know that Lily does have that Brona still in her. Even though Lily is Lily, she is still Brona, and Brona, as we remember, was a prostitute, and a strange working of fate gave her a new life, and Dorian asks if she will do the same no matter the cost. Justine immediately agrees, and it's clear they want to get Justine away from the prostitute life. They don't want her to have to be a prostitute, they don't want her to have to kill herself, and Lily asks if she'll forgive the men who used her. The girl asks if Lily would have forgive them, and Lily assures her that she wouldn't. She wouldn't make sure, she would not forgive those men, obviously, and she promises that they will have their revenge. Kisses Justine, and this really does make sense. I mean, we saw last year that she had that whole monologue about how men feel, and how, she really doesn't want to be with men anymore, and how she doesn't really see men as genuine. She always sees men wanting to take advantage of women. It was a really powerful monologue, and Dorian's the only one she's with that isn't like that. She sees Dorian's a genuine man, and I do like seeing that. So an attendant brings one of the patients into Jekyll's lab. Jekyll dismisses the man once the lunatic Balfour strapped to a chair, and this scene was crazy, honestly. This scene was really insane what was going on here. He tells Victor that Balfour tried to kill the queen. They had him locked away. Victor concedes that Balfour is violently deranged, and Jekyll injects the lunatic with a chemical of his own creation, and Balfour convulses violently, and then he just passes out, and Jekyll removes his gag. The lunatic, now calm and rational, asks for some water, and he's already calm. Like, he's no longer erratic, he's no longer being crazy, and he's now completely calm. He's as calm as anyone else you'd see, which is a very interesting scene. I love that it was done the way that we already saw, that Jekyll is capable of basically calming people down is very interesting, but the way he can do this with Lily, I think, is very interesting. Lily is not crazy by any means. That's the thing. Balfour is a crazy guy. He's someone that does belong in a mental asylum, but Lily isn't really like that. She just has changed her views, and I love the way that scene was done. Amazing stuff overall. I love that scene with Balfour. Probably one of the creepy scenes we've had, but it does show really what Jekyll's capable of. So at the museum, Sweet receives the afternoon post. Among the letters is an invitation for Vanessa to Sweet to join her that night as a given address for an adventure. And that night, Vanessa and Sweet attend a Magic Lamp show. He missed that he's never been asked out by a woman. The proprietor announced the show concerning Sweet's hero, Captain Nemo, and the audience applauds the show, and Sweet smiles in appreciation. Vanessa watches him and smiles, and we can see that he really is enjoying this. They really are bonding over this whole Captain Nemo thing, and I really did like seeing that. And again, I like seeing Vanessa have a close ally, but there's something about this guy I really do not trust. So at Seward's office, Renfield listens to the doctor's recordings of her session with Vanessa, clearly trying to get information. I mean, obviously we know, Dracula's words, Dracula's mission that he's on is to basically get information out of Vanessa and to find out really what her deal is. So Scarman goes to a saloon to buy supplies, and we remember how, menacing Scarman really was last week, and he's not exactly going to be the villain in this season, you see. And we see a manacled Ethan sits at a table and looks at the full moon outside. A Native American woman tending table is nearby, says that Ethan looks sad. She wonders what he did. Ethan says that he killed the senator's son, and the woman says that she knows Ethan and was of Kaetenay's family. Ethan asks where Kaetenay is, and the woman says that the others are dead and dying on a reservation in Oklahoma Territory, and says that she would help Ethan if she could, and he tells her to leave the room immediately. The woman nods and blesses him and then leaves. And again, you can tell that he's not really interested in Kaetenay, but he does care about him. So it's a very interesting situation with Ethan and Kaetenay. I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. But then Ethan changes. He shares his manacles, attacks and kills all the saloon customers. And as Scarman prepares to shoot him, Hecate emerges from where she is blended into the wall, disarms him. Scarman's dead. The werewolf kills him in advance on Hecate, who says that she's missed him. And it's a really great scene. It really shows that Ethan still has that beast with him. Whenever full moon happens, he's going to turn into a werewolf, and he really can't control it. So he's killed Scarman, he's killed all saloon customers, and now it's just him and Hecate. Well, let's see what happens with this, but clearly there's something going on with Hecate. We know that Hecate still has an attraction to Ethan, and we still don't really know what that's about, but it's clear that they definitely have something planned. Well, let's see what happens with that. That's going to be very interesting. We then see we then see after the magic lamp show that Vanessa invites Sweet to coffee. He begs off, thanks her for the night, says that he's looking forward to the next time, which there's a specific reason why he doesn't agree, which we'll get into. Sweet kisses her hand, assures that he will never forget her name again, then walks off, and as Vanessa turns to go, she senses someone watching her, but sees no one in the crowd. It's a very weird scene, because you know that obviously Dracula's not there. Renfield's not there either, so who the hell could be watching her? So she walks away, the lead familiar steps out of the shadows, and Victor is sitting on a bench on a street outside of Dorian's home, and he's staring up at a window. We get this great scene between him and Lily. Now, I was thinking we weren't going to get this for a while, but we do actually get that great scene between these two here. And Billie Piper, once again, amazing here. Lily is there, sees him, walks out of sight. She comes out, tells Victor there's nothing there for him, and Victor's insisting that he must save her from what she is doing, and Lily says that she needs no man to save her, suggests she created Victor more than he created her, and yeah, in many ways she did. I mean, she turned Victor into this, deranged, just narcotic, really, she did, and she kisses him, says that he will never recover from this first love, tells him that he won't like what she's becoming, goes back inside, and she doesn't care that he doesn't like what he's becoming. She likes what she's becoming, he doesn't, it doesn't really matter to her. It's a great scene, shows that there really isn't a saving Lily, even though I think Victor wants to. There isn't really much saving her, even though really he thinks that there's an option. It's really not an option at this point, so it's interesting the way that's going. Vanessa returns home, lights a fire. She wonders if Malcolm will walk where Ethan is, and says that she is currently content, and she writes this note to Malcolm all about, if he's going to walk where Ethan is. Very interesting stuff there. I really love the way that scene was done, and like I said, I like that these two are going back and forth with letters. I definitely enjoyed that, but let's get back to Lily and Victor for a second, their situation, because I really, like I said, love this scene, because to me, it really does seem like Lily does genuinely care for Victor, but she doesn't see him as a lover. She only sees him as her cousin, who is, of course, who he said that he was, and that's how this whole situation started. But now that Lily remembers who she used to be, she doesn't remember that she's Brona, but she does remember who she used to be. It's a very interesting scene. I love the way Billie Piper's acting it out, and she's doing an incredible job, I have to say. But then we get the ending of this episode, which I will admit I kind of saw coming. I did, but I think was a very well done reveal, nevertheless. Renfield returns to the warehouse. The vampires stare at him. Dracula whispers from the shadows, asking if Seward believed Vanessa's story, because, obviously, he wants to get information. Renfield believes that she didn't, and begs for the blood, and it's interesting he says that she didn't. I mean, especially with all the shit that Seward's been through, Renfield's convinced that Seward does not really believe Vanessa's story, and his newfound master emerges from the shadows, has Renfield kneel. He opens a vein on his wrist, feeds the blood to Renfield, and as Renfield drinks it, we realize that Dracula is none other than Sweet, and that's how the episode ends. So, I kind of knew this. I did. I didn't think that Sweet was directly Dracula, I will say that, but I did think that he was involved with that part of the show, with the whole Dracula situation. Something about this guy just seemed really off, and here's the part that I'm worried about. You guys remember last season we had that really great arc with Malcolm and Evelyn, where Evelyn ended up brainwashing Malcolm, made him think that, certain things weren't as important, and he focused on, shaving his beard and things like that, and he loved her. I'm worried the same thing's gonna happen with Vanessa and, Sweet. The difference is Sweet is not a witch. He's a vampire, and there's a lot less that he can do because he's a vampire, and I'm interested in seeing really how that's gonna play out, and I'm just hoping we don't get a repeated storyline. I don't think we're going to, but there's a part of me that feels like we are, so I am a bit worried that that is going to happen. I don't think it's going to. I hope it doesn't. It really would kill the show if it did. I mean, I don't really know. I guess it makes sense, obviously, because it's the last part of Lucifer's plan, but to me, it just kind of seems like it's not really coming out of left field. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it just feels, like something that I don't want to see a repetitive storyline. I want to see something different, and hopefully they can make something different. Hopefully I will talk to you guys in a few weeks and say, you know what, guys, they tricked me. They did do something different, and I don't think that this is going to become as much a problem as I think it's going to be, but right now I am a bit worried, I will admit, and I'm not going to lie when I say I'm worried. I am worried. I'm worried that the show is not going to deliver in the way that I wanted to with that. We'll have to see what that goes, especially because they have 8 episodes. We'll have to see what they do with that, because there's a lot really that they can do there, and let's see what happens with that. I love Dorian and Lily's plot this season. I really do. I love that they want to help this girl Justine. I love that Lily wants to get away from the prostitute type life, because that's of course what Lily went through when she was Brona. I like seeing that. I like seeing Dorian and Lily genuinely care about each other, and I also like that Lily shot Victor down. Like, she told him, look, I get that you want to be friends, I get that you want to do this, but we just can't do this anymore. I'm not this person. I'm not the same person they used to know, and that's true. Lily is very different from who Victor once knew, and I think they show that really well here, that Lily is not the person that Victor meant to create, Lily was meant to be innocent. Lily was meant to love Victor, and we knew that she was fake. We know that she was faking it. She was faking it. Well, at first she wasn't, but then she started to realize more of who she was, and then she started to fake it. And really, Brona's been there all along, which is very interesting. I like the way that situation is going. Hecate, what does Hecate really want from Ethan? Does she just want to be with him, or is there more to it? I feel like there's more for her. I feel like there's more involved there. I don't know what it is exactly, but I feel like there has to be more going on there. It can't just be that Hecate wants to be with Ethan. There has to be more going on. Kaetenay and Malcolm. What is the connection between Kaetenay and Ethan? What exactly is the Apache? I mean, definitely, definitely, it's very interesting what is going on with the Apache, because we don't really know what the Apache is. We know obviously Kaetenay talked about it, but other than that, no other words on the Apache. So that's something else I'm really looking forward to, is what exactly is this Apache? What can the Apache do? What do they need the Apache for? That's something I'm not really sure of yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. So that's going to be interesting. And then what's the connection between Kaetenay and Ethan? Because clearly these two know each other. Ethan says he's not really the man that Kaetenay thought he was, and that's something else I'm looking forward to, is how do these two really know each other? What a study those already killing, I gotta say. He really is already killing it. He's doing a great job, and Jekyll and Victor, I think, is a very interesting storyline. I'm wondering if Jekyll really is going to be able to help Lily, because at this point it seems like she really is good on her own. Like, she doesn't really need that help, even though, Victor wants her to have it. She doesn't really need it, nor does she really want it, and I don't really know if Jekyll's going to be able to get her on, to do what Victor wants. I don't really know if that's going to work. Let's see what happens with that, because I'm really not sure if that's really going to work out, but we'll have to see what happens there. I'm not really sure. I can't really give you guys a prediction right now. That's going to be very interesting. I like the direction we're headed with Seward and Vanessa. I really do. I think it's a good thing for Vanessa to come out to come clean to Seward. But as we know, Renfield suspects that Seward does not believe Vanessa, and she really thinks that Vanessa's lying. So is this true? Does Seward really believe Vanessa's story? Does she think that she's lying? I'm not really sure. I like where we're headed with Renfield. Now, Renfield is actually a classic Dracula character. I never realized this, as is Seward. So it's been a while, it basically was a given that we'd eventually see these two. I think it was just inevitably, certain from the first episode we eventually see these two. So I'm glad we're seeing those three characters here. It definitely is adding a lot to the show. What is Sweet going to do with Vanessa? Is he going to try to put a kind of like a curse on her, like Evelyn did? Is he powerful enough to do that? And we don't really know what Dracula's limits are. We don't really know how powerful he is, what he can do, what he's capable of. We still don't really know all that stuff, and that's something I'm really looking forward to seeing, is what exactly he's capable of, what he can do, stuff I'm looking forward to. Now, we got no John Clare in this episode, if you guys noticed. That's the one thing I did not talk about. We did not get John in this episode. I think it was purposeful, though. I think they want us to think that John is going on his own on this quest, and he is eventually going to get back to England. I think that's where he's going to go, because like he said, he's going home, and I think that's where we're going, is that we don't need to follow John in this quest. We already know everything we need to. He wanted to get on the ship to sail away. It did not work out, to basically to isolate himself from everyone. It obviously did not work out. He's now all alone, and it looks like he's going back to Vanessa, but that's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. Like I said, I like that we're already kind of getting hints of how they're all going to meet up eventually. I mean, I think what's going to end up happening is that Ethan, Malcolm, and Kaetenay, they'll meet up, and then they'll end up going to Vanessa. Obviously, this isn't for a while, but it's also not for 8 episodes, because like I said, we only have 9 episodes a season, so there's not a lot of time to do this stuff. But overall, guys, I'm really enjoying the season. Other than that one complaint, I really enjoyed this episode. Really great stuff overall. Really loving this season so far. Like I said, it is different, but that's one of the reasons I'm really loving it. I know you guys saw this episode, of your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next show, which will be for tonight's episode of Bates Motel, which, guys, it's going to be a crazy one. I know that just from the previews, and especially since the description for this episode is the same as next week's. That really does concern me. But I will see you guys in my next show, which will be for Bates Motel, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.